What up, guys? Your boy Quake back with a brand new episode of the Diverse Mentality Podcast, number 396. Man, last podcast episode was hilarious. The Papoose thing was, oh man, that shit's funny. I got word of someone close to Papoose that Papoose actually saw my video, looked at his numbers, and I'm not even joking when I say this, looked at his own numbers, the challenge that I made to him, basically. I was like, hey, if you can prove you have more than 70 million views, then I will promote your music for free for a whole year, which is a great deal because I get offers of thousands of dollars from random artists to promote their music on my platforms, which I never accept because if I don't like the music, I just won't promote it. If I like the music a lot, I will legitimately promote it for free. I don't care. I don't need money to promote people's music. I've always been promoting people's music for free if I like it. And there are a lot of people that can actually vouch for that. Hobson, Dizzy Wright, the Funk Volume thing, Nikki Heaton at the time before she blew up. Shout out to Breeze Montana as well, him. There's been a lot of artists that I've actually, music I like, and I promoted them for free because if I just like the music, I will. I don't need to get paid off, helping an artist get on. That just doesn't make any sense to me because once they get on, if they're good people, they will look out. Always. That's always been the case. But besides Nikki Heaton, she was the one that blew up and just said, fuck you, I don't recognize you. But that's a whole different, I can get into that a whole different time, right? But yeah, so I made that offer, that challenge to Papoose, and somebody close to him said that he looked at his numbers and they were nowhere near what my numbers were. On Facebook alone, by the way, I'm not tackling him with YouTube and all these other analytics that I have, because if I did, I would be over 100 million, maybe 130, probably, I doubt 150, but 130 million max, right? And that's not saying it to brag, right? I've done these type of numbers before, never mentioned them. I don't care. I just did it for the sole purpose of this challenge. That's it. Because there's no reason to be bragging about this stuff. I work hard. The results are there. And that's with anybody. You work hard, you'll get the results there. You can be the best at whatever you want to be as long as you work hard, regardless of, anything else, right? So yeah, somebody close to his team was like, his numbers aren't close, so he's not going to respond. He's not going to say anything. Which I expected, with me revealing my numbers to him first, it gives him a chance to look at his. And then if he had more numbers, he would respond and be like, haha, I have more numbers than you. You got to promote me. Like it would have been a thing that would have been cool back and forth. But Papoose, clearly doesn't have the numbers. I saw it clear as day. There's no way. I was like, he's beating 70 million off my Facebook. There's no way. You can look at his Instagram and the past 30 days on his reels, you can see he's probably generated 4 to 5 million total just off the reels. Now you can add the images and stuff. Maybe he's at 7 million. And that's on his biggest social media, which is at 2.8 million followers, whatever he's at on the Instagram. So then you add Facebook. I looked at his Facebook. He'll be lucky if he's pulling in 1.5 million in that month. And then you look at YouTube, you can see as clear as day. It's about 1 million the last 30 days with that song that did 80,000 views. And now with this Agent Provocateur that did 1 million views. And then you can look at, his TikTok. You can look at his X accounts. They pulled in, I think on the X account, he pulled in maybe 300,000, 500,000. And then on TikTok, same thing. So he's nowhere near. He's probably at if I were to calculate all the numbers, he's probably at 15 to 20 million in the past 30 days. If you calculate all my numbers from every platform, I'm probably at 100 to 130 million, somewhere around there. So that's like a 4 or 5 times difference. And I have less followers besides on YouTube. That's the only platform I have more followers than him. Everywhere else, I have less followers significantly than he does. Because he's been doing this a lot longer than me. I just started focusing on social media, like pushing on social media. Basically in 2025, 2024, towards the end of the year, my dad was getting sick, so I didn't really pay attention to anything. And then once my dad, died and I dealt with all that, then around March, April is when I started focusing on social media mainly. That's why it's been so slow on me dropping documentaries on YouTube, because YouTube has shifted as a platform and it's focusing more on shorts, which is sad, but it's also pushing It's like YouTube is in this weird space where me dropping documentaries, it's like, will all the time that I'm putting in it, will I get the results is basically what I'm saying. Right now, my focus should be building around the YouTube, which I'm doing great at. I think we're about to reach 100,000 followers on Facebook. I think in the past 2 months, we've gained like 46,000 followers. So I'm just saying all this to say that's why I haven't dropped a lot of documentaries yet, because I'm kind of building this structure. So then when I do drop these documentaries, that if they don't perform well on YouTube, I still have like 5 other platforms where they can perform well at, so instead of just relying on YouTube as the only platform, now I'm pushing it all over the place. And that's what a good business does. It doesn't solely put its eggs in one basket. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. And with me mainly doing most of the work, it's been hard. It's not that easy. I don't have just money to be, hiring a bunch of people full time. I'm looking to hire somebody full time right now, which is going to be great. He's going to be the first person, like 100% full time, dedicated to diverse mentality. That's going to be the first time I ever have anybody like that full time. So that's going to be a huge help. And he's going to be focusing on the social media side. So once he focuses on the social media side, that'll free me up a lot more to focus on, the YouTube side of things, where I can do what I love to do, which is documentaries. That's the sad part, man. A lot of people are like, man, you quit documentaries, you're not doing anymore. Like, it's not that, man. It's just I have to build this infrastructure out in order to last. Because if I was just doing YouTube, I would die out. And if I listen to people, because a lot of people are like, man, we just want the beef videos. If I just did those, I would have died out a long time ago, because there's only so many beefs you can cover. Yeah, that's kind of the update on that. Papoose is scared to respond, and rightfully so. He's, and this is, I'm not like directly disrespecting this guy, like as a person. It's just a funny back and forth. He sends a little subliminal that everybody tags me in. And I know people are saying, oh, it's, generalization. But I mean, he says that, everybody tags you in it. Most people know you're on the biggest platform when it comes to 50 G unit and all that stuff. So, most people will tag me in it and saying it's me. So I just took it as that. Had a little fun back and forth if he wants to. Clearly he doesn't want to, because I got other things planned that if he was going to respond, I already had like 10 different steps that I was going to take, 10 different angles. Because I was going to say, if he does this, I'll say this. If he so I had like a huge, hey, man, when I get into a back and forth with people, I'm very prepared. Let's just say that. I'm not somebody that's just going to jump out there and not know what I'm doing. 48 laws of power, strategies, 33 strategies of war, all that stuff I've read very well on. So that's something that's going to be fun. If somebody ever decides to go back and forth with me on something, if it makes sense, I'll definitely do it. Because I don't mind. It's fun. As long as it's nothing personal, right? I would never attack like Papoose's kids or family or, Clarissa Shields. She's a public figure. Remy Ma is a public figure. So I'm not like bringing in a private wife that he has, or I don't really like that angle of attacking somebody personally. I was just attacking him with his music and saying that, it's dookie water certain times. And it is, sometimes it's, and he has bars. That's no disrespect to him. He's got bars. There's times where I've heard him, the alphabet stuff that I mentioned a while ago, like he's got some bars here and there. It's cool. But in general, most people aren't saying, hey, put on the Papoose. Like there's some people that have never heard of this guy until I mentioned it on the podcast. I got like 7 messages of people saying, I've never heard of Papoose until you're talking about him on the podcast. So that just tells you right there. This guy musically hasn't been, anywhere near a high level. He's been at a D tier when it comes to notoriety, right? Skill, yeah, you can say he can rap, he can rhyme words, and that's cool. As a battle rapper, he probably would have had way more success. He should have gone the battle rap route, and he probably would have dominated more on there. I don't know. That's a whole different thing that he would have to look into in his career. But yeah, man, it's one of those things. Let's get into the news. There's a lot that's happening. Diddy officially files appeal over his 50-month prison sentence, which is something that was expected. Whenever anybody gets sentenced to anything, they always do an appeal just to see if they can get a second chance at getting a retrial or, resentencing, all that stuff. So let's go over this. Diddy and his legal team have officially appealed his 50-month prison sentence. Of course, it stems over 2 guilty counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. In their filing sent in on Friday, March 13th, per TMZ, they argued the ruling was too harsh, especially considering he was acquitted on more serious counts such as racketeering and sex trafficking. They believe that because of the jury's result, Judge Arun Subramanian, the man responsible for the sentence, punished him harder, even though Mann Act violations typically aren't as severe. To be more specific, Diddy's team says the sentence is roughly 4 times higher than normal for incidents like these. Even if it is, I think they sentence him also because of the, Cassie situation, even though that wasn't brought up in the actual court. I think the jurors probably saw that and were like, fuck this piece of shit, sending him away longer. It's like the OJ Simpson thing, right? He got away with murder with Nicole Brown, the first time. And then civilly, Ron Goldman's family sued him and they won civilly. And then O.J. Simpson got into that robbery situation where he was taking his own memorabilia back and ended up into like armed robbery, so on and so forth. And he got insane sentencing for that. It was like, yeah, so he got something sentenced with robbery and, they gave him a really, really much longer sentencing. And people are saying they did that as revenge of him getting away with the first, murder with Nicole Brown, that murder that happened. They did it as like a lesson to teach OJ that, hey, you're not bigger than the program, So I think that's what's happening in this situation. It's the exact same thing where they can't charge him with the Cassie thing because of statute of limitations, but they know all the stuff surrounding and they saw the video footage, so they sentence him because of all that stuff surrounding him and not just because of, and is that fair or not? Hey, it's technically not, but hey, man, everybody's human. They're going to have their own feelings, even judges, whether they want to act professional or not. I'm sure that judge has his or her own thoughts of Diddy and what, they like Diddy or not. And that's the thing. Humans have biases. There's no human that is like straightforward unless they just don't know shit about the person, like at all. Even then, though, there's some judges that I'm sure are racist that see black guy and be like, yeah, I don't really fuck with black people like that. And, let me sentence him longer. So there is shit that's fucked up. There's racism in there. There's, just all kinds of shit that could play a factor, right? Because let's just say you go in there, you get charged with robbery, or let's just say you get charged with stabbing somebody, right? That judge could have had somebody in their family that got stabbed and died. Maybe they have a personal attachment to it. So there's so many factors with humans, So I kind of think like, man, if AI took that over, would that be a better suited thing for AI where it can just be facts and that's it? Like there's no bias there with anything. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see in the future. But I think with humans, there's always going to be some type of bias one way or another. Unless, the probably the cleanest one would be like the judge not knowing anything about the person, the skin color being the same as the judge, and let's see, the charge not being something related to the judge at all. Those are like the only ways where you can kind of avoid any type of bias, because there are some personal things that play a role into all this stuff. Now, there's humans out there that don't care about skin color, don't care about the charges, don't care about any of that genuinely just say, hey, let me look at the facts and this is what I'm going to give the person. There is that, not saying that every judge is a bad person, but there are judges, believe it or not, that are biased. That's just human nature to lean towards one side or another. The worst are the ones that aren't honest about it. And I said this about anything in the hip hop field, right? I'll never forget, man. I commented something on Instagram, and one person was like, "You're compromised" or something like that. And I'm like, dude, I've been saying I'm a 50 Cent, G Unit fan, Eminem fan, like forever. There's no compromise here. You guys know where I lean at with that stuff. So that's the good thing about me is at least I'm honest with you guys and say, hey, this is where I lean at. Now, I feel I'm not biased. People say I am because there's stuff where I say, hey, I don't fuck with 50 on this, and it's the Young Buck situation, the Banks, and there's some records I don't like of 50, so I feel like I'm pretty neutral. But, people will say, hey, because you lean them that way, at least you're biased towards that way. That's how they feel, some people, right? But as, when Jay-Z announced these little tour dates that we're talking about a little bit later, you're going to see there's a lot of media people, like Charlamagne is one example that I screenshotted. He was like, Vengers assemble. Like, you can tell he's a stan of Jay-Z. Like, he's a fan of him. Clear bias there. And that's the thing. These guys won't like openly admit it. They'll lean towards a certain way and they won't say it. Ebro is the same way. He's clearly a Jay-Z fan. Paul Rosenberg, clearly a Jay-Z fan. Angie Martinez, clearly a Jay-Z fan. And who were all those people in Hot 97? They're all in one place, Hot 97. So they were clearly biased towards Jay-Z, and they were pushing his music more on that specific radio station than Nas, than 50, than anybody else that was in New York. Like, I'll never forget, man. And I mention this all the time because, like, if that were to happen in today's time, people would be like, holy shit, you're dick riding this and that. But back in like 2000, when Jay-Z released the Blueprint 3, I think, they, like, Hot 97 legitimately rolled out a carpet for Jay-Z, like a red carpet. Like, if they did that in today's time, people would just say, you're biased. You're biased as fuck. Like, imagine me interviewing 50, and I just roll out a red carpet. Like, I'm like, yo, I pop champagne bottles. Like, clear as day, that's a bias. Like, that's insane. But, it was happening back then, and, I guess they got away with it more. But in today's time, you do that, it's clear as fuck bias. But people won't admit it, and that's the ones you stay away from. The ones that don't admit it, that act like they ain't got a bias. Don't listen to them. Don't watch them because they're going to steer you, and they're going to pretend like, I'm not doing that. Like, no. You know, and me, I don't, hey, man, I'm straightforward with everything. I haven't steered nobody in no other direction. I have my opinions just like everybody else does. But, yeah, that's a whole different conversation. But that's the update on, Diddy filing his appeal. More news came out about Diddy, but it's unverified. I want to make that very clear, unverified. And 50 reacted to it, and I don't know why he does react to unverified stuff because that could lead into lawsuits and crazy stuff. But let's go over it. So 50 Cent never misses an opportunity to mock his foes online. The mogul did just that earlier today when he weighed in on a new Diddy update on Instagram. Per a report by, remember, this is Tasha K. This is the lady that got sued by Cardi B for spreading misinformation, and now she owes Cardi B like millions of dollars. That's who this person is. So don't trust anything she posts online. I'm just letting you guys know that. The owner of an escort service was questioned in court recently. She claims that he was asked about the Bad Boy founder's alleged request for over 30 male escorts. Allegedly, his attorneys also confirmed that Diddy could be hit with state criminal charges in the near future. Unsurprisingly, 50 seems pretty pleased about all this. 50 put in the caption, "New charges" with eye emoji. Court docs say Diddy raped a male escort, then threatened him, saying, "I got Tupac hit," he wrote in his caption. "What the fuck you think I'll do to you? Your man is a mook, yo." So 50 has been going after Diddy for years now. In December, he even teamed up with Netflix to produce docuseries. Yeah, we talked about this. So let me go with the actual post. 50 ended up removing it, though, which I don't know why he always does this. But the post says exclusive. Shit is getting worse for Diddy. Brett Taylor, owner of Cowboys and Angels, alleged escort services, was questioned in state court today by prosecutors over claims tied to Sean Diddy Combs and requests for over 30 male escorts. These escorts were allegedly only for Diddy, not his women, dating back to 2014. Defense attorneys for Brett confirmed that during the hearing, the state criminal charges against Diddy may be coming down the pipeline. They're expected to announce charges soon. Yeah, I don't know about he said, allegedly Diddy said, "Hey, if I can kill Tupac, what do you think I can do to you?" Which, if that is true and they can kind of prove that, then that's a great tie to Keefe D's situation. And that's where they can probably get some ties going over there. Because imagine if Tupac, if Diddy gets charged with Tupac's murder for hire, the day that news breaks is going to skyrocket. The whole internet's going to go fucking crazy. That day I'm going to be working legitimately every second to cover everything that happens. But none of this is confirmed. It's Tasha K, so take it with a grain of salt. We'll see. Not to say that everything she's ever reported on is false, but a lot of it is, man. A majority of it is. So, that's the update on that, and we'll see what happens if that's actually true or not. Maino, so he dropped a new track called The Algorithm, and where he basically addresses content creators, and, he says that 50 using Max B as a pawn and all this other stuff, right? The record's all right. Maino's music is pretty subpar in general. Not even before the beef, I really wasn't checking for Maino's music like that. He had his first album, he had High Hater and All the Above, one of my favorite records. Like, I love that song. It's probably in my top 100 or top 50. T-Pain on the hook is crazy. The beat, Maino's verses, all that. All the Above is an amazing track. But other than that, I don't really check for Maino's music. I haven't in a long time. But he stopped by Vlad TV and addressed kind of the beef with 50. And he said something very interesting. He said that 50 got spanked. 50 and G Unit got spanked by everybody they beefed with, right? Like people say in the Supreme situation, 50 got stabbed, 50 got shot. He was the one that was hiding in the Poconos and all that stuff. And then with the Jimmy Henchman, somebody got killed on 50's side, which was, what's his name, bro? It's Tony Yayo's homie. I'm forgetting his name. Not Maserati Fox, because he got killed too, but it's another guy, man. I forget his name, but he ended up getting killed because of the Jimmy Henchman thing. Jimmy Henchman shot up Tony Yayo's house, so on and so forth, right? So that's what basically Maino's saying. I can't play the Vlad clip because it's copyrighted. But no, Maino said, hey, basically through the interview, Maino said, hey, I don't know this guy for being a gangster. Like, I know him for being a great businessman, making good music, but all that gangster stuff, I don't know about, right? Which is hilarious because Maino and 50 kind of come from the same type of environment and area. So for them, I'm not saying that Maino's from Queens, but you get it. Like he's been brought up, he's around the same age as 50. So they've been brought up the same, time. And, he says, I don't know him for any gangster stuff. He got spanked by Jimmy Henchman. Then Vlad says, what about Damian World Hardy, Suge Knight, and other examples? And Maino's like, what? What about him? The Hardy situation, Damian World Hardy situation, it was one situation. and that kind of moved on. Suge Knight, it was one situation, it moved on, blah, 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 which isn't good examples, right? So I'm going to break this down because I actually know this. If I was there, I would kind of break it down a little bit better for Maino. And this is where I kind of wish I was in these conversations because I would be able to kind of break this down better. For the Jimmy Henchman situation, and I haven't covered these beefs on my channel at all. And when I do cover them, I'm probably going to go as deep into detail as humanly possible. And there's a lot of details that are public and not public. There's people that I've talked to before that have revealed information that isn't even public. And there's, so there's a lot of stuff, right? I would never reveal the stuff that isn't public because at the end of the day, that's very, very confidential information. That's snitching at the end of the day. That is snitching when you take information that isn't public and you put it out in the public. I'm not a street guy, so I don't really abide by snitching rules, quote unquote, a journalist. So that never applies to me. So regardless, but I just would never put that information out there because that can cause a bunch of crazy shit to happen, right? But if you look at the public documents, there are moments where 50's side allegedly, quote unquote, did stuff. Now, 50 is in a better position in life, so he can't move as reckless as Jimmy Henchman. Jimmy Henchman was a manager for some artists. That's it. He didn't have this multi-million-dollar company, So you have to factor in those things because why would 50 trick himself out of a position of where he's at in life just to retaliate to a guy who's not even worth retaliating to? So first, let's go to the Supreme situation. So the stabbing was Black Child. That wasn't Ja Rule. That wasn't Chris Gotti. That was Black Child of Murder Inc., right? So he got stabbed. Okay, so Murder Inc. stabbed him. What happened? What did 50 do with his own hands? He actually beat up Ja Rule, punched him, bruised his eye. So that's 50 himself doing that. That isn't Black Child. That isn't Tony Yayo. That isn't nobody. It's just 50 that did that. And apparently snatched the chain as well. So that's one of the incidents that 50 got back on him. Now, stabbing and a fighting, stabbing's a little bit worse, but how big is a stab? That's the thing. Chris Gotti said that 50 put a speaker, slammed a speaker on his head. Chris Gotti was gushing blood. So you can say, hey, 50 got his get back on somebody else during that altercation. So then 50 snuffs Ja Rule, takes the chain as well. That's another incident. Now the shooting, it's not Ja Rule. It's not Irv Gotti. They didn't go and grab a gun and shoot somebody. It was literally Supreme ordering a hit, quote unquote, allegedly, right? Ordering the hit on 50. Shots get fired. The guy, they're saying it. 50 said it's Hamo, but there are reports that 50 said it's only Hamo because Hamo ended up dying, and 50 didn't want to tell the police who the real person was that shot him because if he blames it on a dead person, the police can't question a dead person. So there's a whole history on that, and I cover it on my YouTube channel. It's easy to find all that stuff. So that situation is Supreme. He shot him. Now, 50's side of the story is, and, Maino said, oh, he's hiding now. He didn't get revenge on Supreme, right? Actually, there's quite a few incidents where Supreme's team got spanked a few times. Shootings that happened that was, quote unquote, tied to 50. But they never, nobody could ever prove it. This is the thing about 50, and the way he moves is smart. There's nothing that you can tie him to when it comes to all this stuff. It's very hard. It's like Diddy with the Tupac killing thing. If he actually did it, there's not really much ties to it, besides him saying it out of his own mouth, which I talked about earlier in the podcast. So with 50, with the Supreme thing, there was incidents where 50 went to a location himself, had a gun loaded, and was waiting on Supreme to come out so he can kill him. 50 said that out of his own mouth, but that location that he got word on Supreme being at, never showed up to that location. And good, right? I'm happy because if he would have showed up to the location, actually 50 did something to him and killed him, we would have never had 50 Cent the rapper. We would have never had him in his music career. We would have never had it in the club, all these other records that, So 50 was looking for revenge at that time. He said himself, it's either look for revenge and get back on that person that did that to you, or, don't be scared and do it in a more way where you can't, get in trouble with music. So he wasn't scared. Maino saying, oh, he hit out, in the Poconos and all this. I mean, he came out immediately with a record called Fuck You. That's the first song he came out with after getting shot. He said, fuck you to Supreme, everybody. He said, fuck you. Like he didn't come out with a record that's like, oh yeah, I'm going to dance around. I'm going to switch to like more, pop music and just, no, like it was street gangsta shit, talking that shit. And obviously they were mad about it. You guys know my Shaw Money XL interview. Shaw Money was getting calls from Haitian Jack, Suge Knight, Supreme people that surrounded trying to kill 50, and 50 was still moving around. Now, he wasn't moving around recklessly. That's the thing. Like, if you got that many people wanting to kill you, you're not just going to move around reckless. Like, Maino's a moron for saying, oh, he hit out in the Poconos. Like, you would do the same shit. You would move way more strategically if you knew a lot of people were ordering hits to try to kill you. So, Maino saying that is just funny because, Maino knows all the street shit 50's done. He's in the same age as 50. He knows all of it. He just doesn't. He's saying this shit now because he's beefing with him. But we all know 50's been involved in street stuff. I mean, look at the Gunplay MMG chain thing. That's the thing I wish Vlad would have mentioned. Like, hey, what about Gunplay getting his chain robbed with MMG? But I think Vlad didn't mention that because, he sued Rick Ross and, all that shit happened. But that's probably why I didn't mention it. But that's an incident where, hey, Ross hasn't done shit about that. Gunplay never did shit about that. They literally stomped Gunplay out, took his chain, video footage of it all over, and they didn't get nobody on G Unit. They didn't get nobody's chain. They didn't do anything. And 50 was the first one to snuff Gunplay is what people are saying. I don't know if it was actually true, but apparently 50 was the one that first ran into him and said, you're not supposed to be here, right? And then hit him, snuffed him in the jaw. And then, everybody else jumped in and helped and stuff like that. So there's also reports of 50, snuffing Onyx. I think it's Onyx. It's the guy from fucking Onyx, bro. Why am I forgetting? Fredo. I think Fredo. Let me see, man. Get these names right. Because I think his name is Fredo. I'm tripping right now, bro. Fredo Starr, yeah. There's rumors that he 50 stomped the shit out and beat him up. That whole story, I don't really know the full details of something happening, but he got asked about that and he got mad and all this and got crazy. But there's stories of that. There's a actual clip floating around right now of Coolio. So rest in peace to him. Talking about a moment when he saw 50, and he actually is telling this to 50 in the clip, where he saw 50 like literally beat the shit out of somebody at a concert because they did something to him or so. I don't know what the story is, but he said, I was like watching you and you just like beat the shit out of him. So like there's a lot of stories. There's Southside people from Southside early on in the streets talking about 50 running around with guns, with ammo running out of a gun. He was like, man, I was trying to get these guys. Can you guys got any bullets? And he was like, what the fuck? Like, what is going on? Like, so there's a lot of stories of 50 being involved in street stuff. And Maino knows that. He's just saying it to, downplay 50 street credibility and all this stuff. But if you actually talk to the people that have, whether it's enemies or supporters, they've all said that 50 ain't no sucker. Like, he ain't just somebody that's been chill and been punked and bullied by people. That's never been the situation. With Maino, I don't really know the stories of him. I've heard of him getting into some fights with people, but that's really about it. I've never heard of him getting involved with real, like, powerful drug kingpins, people that have, are bosses and leaders that dominate. At the time, Supreme was dominating. At the time, Haitian Jack was dominating. At the time, Jimmy Henchman, for what he was doing, was dominating. I mean, you're going up against... Now, by the time 50 went up against Jimmy Henchman, 50 was powerful himself, too. So that was a more, even or more... Not even even, just 50 was way more, way more money, way more status, way more everything. By the time that 50 was going against Suge Knight, Haitian Jack, Supreme, even Dame World Hardy, at that time, 50 was just coming up. So his status wasn't really there compared to them, to those other people. So the only one that had he had better status was Jimmy Henchman. But that's kind of the gist of it. I just wanted to talk about it because it's funny how everybody kind of has this twisted story, when they're beefing with somebody. But shout out to Game, man. There's one time where Game did an interview about his beef with 50, and he was like, you know what, Yayo and Banks, I don't really believe that they're the gangster ones. Like, it's an old MTV clip. But he's like, 50, I really, I believe he would actually, get into a fight with me. He would actually have a shootout with me. Like, 50 was the one that I was actually looking at. Like, Game himself. And this is like this isn't the peak of their beef. This was in 2009, so it wasn't the peak. But this is like, for Game to be saying that holds some type of weight because that guy is beefing with you. You usually hate their guts. So to be admitting that is, something. That's it on that. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about it. I wish I could play the clip, but check it out on Vlad. It's like part 1 of his interview just came out. So, yeah. Mystikal has pleaded guilty to rape. Yes, you heard me right. He has pleaded guilty to rape. Fuck this guy. Mystikal pleaded guilty to third-degree rape on Tuesday following his arrest for an alleged incident in Prairieville, Louisiana back in 2022. He will face up to 20 years in prison at his sentencing hearing, which is currently scheduled for June. The plea deal results in a far less severe sentence than Mystikal had originally faced for charges of first-degree rape, simple robbery, domestic abuse, battery, and false imprisonment. He was looking at a possibility of life in prison. He was set to begin trial on March 30th. Authorities indicted him on those broader charges in 2022 after a woman accused him of assaulting her in his home. She alleged that he raped, choked, and beat her after taking her keys and phone, preventing her from leaving. The woman claimed that Mystikal was experiencing drastic mood swings throughout the incident, switching between violent rage and apologies. It was while apologizing that he allegedly forced her onto the bed and raped her. When she finally got free, she went straight to the hospital to report the injuries. Once we got there, we talked to the victim, who had some very visible injuries on her body, and she was very distraught. Donovan Jackson, spokesperson for the Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office, told WAFB at the time she talked with us, we interviewed her, and she was able to identify who the suspect was. And in this case, it was Michael Taylor, also known as Mystikal. Authorities have held Mystikal without bond since his arrest. This isn't the first time Mystikal has found himself in legal trouble. In 2004, he was sentenced to 6 years in prison after being found guilty of sexual assault and extortion. That conviction resulted in him having to register as a sex offender as well. Mystikal has released several hit songs throughout his year, both Shake Your Ass featuring Pharrell and Danger, Been So Long. Both charted within the top 15 in the Billboard Hot 100. Yeah, I can never listen to these songs again. That's garbage, and I hope he gets a proper sentencing. That is horrible. But yeah, that's the update on Mystikal, the raper. Gunna is the snitch that has been successful, but shout out to him, man, for doing his own thing and still being successful. He has hit promoters with a $750 it wouldn't be $750, it'd be nothing. $750,000 lawsuit over X Games event performance. So let's go over this. Back in January, Gunna performed at the X Games event in Aspen, Colorado. According to his touring company, however, he's allegedly yet to be paid for his work. TMZ reports that the company has filed a lawsuit against the concert promoter that booked the rapper, Michael and Michael Productions. In it, they allege that they signed a contract guaranteeing Gunna $500,000 for his performance and an additional $250,000 if he didn't get his money by the first deadline. Allegedly, the promoters later told Gunna's team that the money was tied up in gold commodities. They also allegedly said that the money would come from a partnership with a major alcohol brand or the St. Patrick's Day Parade in New York City. Gunna's touring company is now seeking more than $750,000 in damages for alleged breach of contract, fraud, and more. Yeah, man, that's crazy, bro. I don't know why these guys don't get like half the money when they perform. Sometimes they do ask for that, so I'm surprised they didn't ask for that money in this situation, because they can't perform without getting at least half. I would never perform unless I got like half the money. Now, I can understand if somebody doesn't want to pay me because I have a bad history of never showing up, and they're like, nah, I'm not giving you half the money because you never, show up anyways. But I don't know if Gunna's ever had that bad history. Maybe that's the reason why he didn't get half the money. But I would definitely want half the money before I would show up. At least, if I got half the money, I didn't go there and get nothing at all. That would be a waste of my time. So, yeah, man, if that's true, then I hope, Gunna wins this situation. Ray J has crashed out, and rightfully so, man. What happened is Shyne appeared on Cameron and, Mace's It Is What It Is podcast. And I'm going to play the clip for you guys. They somewhat disrespectfully talked about Ray J's sister, Brandy, who was a huge superstar in the 90s. And obviously, anybody talking about your sister in a disrespectful way, like the way they did, talking about smashing her and all this stuff, the brother's going to get mad. So Ray J got mad at that. So let's play that clip first, and then we'll play what Ray J said after.
Said off?
Yeah.
What happened with Brandy and everything? Let's just do it.
Listen,
let's do it. Who's dealing with Brandy?
Okay, let me switch my glass.
You know what happened?
We going.
You was dating Brandy at one time, or y'all was just, how'd it go?
I was special, He came in and wanted to be special. So I had to let him be special.
I mean, no lies told.
Yeah,
he was Shaq.
Okay.
He was the champion. He was the MVP.
Right.
I was Kobe, no pun intended, because they said Kobe was a special friend of Brandy's as well.
Right.
But no pun intended.
Right.
But I was coming out of high school on the championship team, and
Right.
he was the superstar of the team.
Right.
But I definitely did want to be special. I definitely, you know, but I had no idea. So what happened is we had a mutual friend who was a snitch.
Okay.
So I'm not. I think he know who it is.
Right.
I'm not gonna expose him.
Right.
But so I was so excited because this is my dream person.
Right. Talk about Brandy.
Brandy, I'm a
Right.
poor kid, Brooklyn, watching MTV, watching Moesha, watching her on BET, and you know, as a dream, I'm like, man, if she was to know Shyne,
Right.
I got that.
Right.
So when I came up, she was in the crosshairs, like I was sniping,
Right.
and yeah, I had no idea though because
Right.
he was special,
Right.
so he was running that playbook
Right.
so discreetly, so quietly. I had no idea.
Yeah, he's sneaky. He's
Yeah, so he was an ultra sniper. But I was so excited,
Right.
so I kept telling one of our mutual friends, and he was snitching me out. And then so Brandy was like, "Yo, who you told you here?
Right.
How so and so know that you here with me right now?" And I'm like, "Oh man."
Right.
So yeah,
That's what's up.
That's
you
what
elaborate?
that's my story.
What I'm elaborating.
All right, so I don't know, man. I would take it as disrespect. I don't blame Ray J. Here's Ray J's response, and it's pretty long, so I'm not gonna play the full thing. There's like a 4 to 5 minute clip, and he basically repeats himself. He basically says, "Hey, I'm gonna butt rape you guys," and just goes down a whole insane path. But check it out.
All three of y'all is like the Three Stooges, and y'all looking real attractive. So when I see y'all better not have that skirt on. Y'all better pull y'all panties up. You know what I'm saying? For real. I see y'all. I know where y'all at. I know where y'all at. Y'all be slipping too in Vegas, walking around the wind, acting like y'all winning. You get some money and have to do 5,000 shows. Y'all whole give you a venereal. Terrible is crazy. Hold on, let me charge the computer. Blood on everything, bro. I get these a venereal disease that they ain't never had before. I tattoo the out these. Bend y'all over, bro. Hit y'all from the back like this. Punks. We're baby. We're back shots. Y'all come in and get some. Yeah. Come in and get some of this. Get some of this camera. I will not tolerate it. And neither will LA. I'm talking about all of Los Angeles. Everybody out here. Bloods, Crips, essays, smokers, crackheads, hoes on Figueroa, everybody. The agency, everybody. Nobody's gonna allow that to happen. About what my sister said. She probably ain't gonna ever watch this type of shit. But I'm watching you, and I'm watching you close. And I see you shave your legs. I like that. Blood. I don't give a bro. I'm talking about everybody. Talking about my sister. Let me look up these moms and sisters and start posting their pictures. I'm gonna your mom, your sister, your I don't know how old y'all are, but I'm everybody in your family, your daddy, everybody. If they dead, them. I'm them in their corpse mode.
So as you can see, Ray J is kind of going the more trolling route, but he's serious from what I can tell. And then Shyne saw that and responded on his Instagram, and he posted a photo of him with Ray J and Brandy. And in the caption, he said, "Let the record reflect, I did not hit it first, most respectfully." So this is, now you're taking it to more disrespectful levels, because he played the Ray J's I Hit It First record, which we all know was a track about Kim Kardashian and all that. So he responded with Ray J's own music and then said that. So I'm sure Cameron and Mase are going to have their own response, but overall, man, just, I think it's super disrespectful to talk about really just smashing any woman in public. I think as a man, that's very like gossipy and corny. I've never done that. I don't talk about women that I've been with. I think that's just like women gossip talk. For me personally, that's the way I view it. I think any man that does that, it comes off as really corny, unless like the female talks about it first in public, and then, the person, is responding to, like, let's just say, Cameron's getting interviewed about smashing, I don't know, a female that he was with, and she already talked about it. That is different. When you're responding to something that's already public, I get that. But when you bring it out there and, you're gossiping about it with another man, it's just weird to me. But hey, I guess content is content for them, right? So yeah, we'll see what happens moving forward. Now let's talk about a lot of these concerts that have been announced. So J. Cole announced his Fall Off tour, and it's already making history. So let's go over this. J. Cole is currently preparing to embark on a world tour. Yes, Rick Ross, you heard that. World tour, something you are never doing. In support of his 7th studio album, The Fall Off, he is scheduled to begin the tour this July with shows across North America in cities like Charlotte, Miami, Tampa, Atlanta, and more. He'll then move onto dates in Europe, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand before closing the tour in December with a performance in South Africa. While Cole's tour hasn't even started yet, it's already managed to break several records. According to Live Nation, he sold over 800,000 tickets during pre-sale, marking the most pre-sale tickets sold for a hip-hop tour across 18 markets. He also expanded the tour from 54 dates to 73 due to demand and added 19 arenas thanks to the success of the pre-sale. That's really dope. News of J. Cole breaking multiple impressive records with his upcoming tour comes just weeks after he wrapped up his trunk sale tour. During that tour, he drove around the United States in his old Honda Civic, selling CDs out of his trunk in an attempt to revisit his roots, which is pretty dope, man. But yeah, congratulations to him, man. That is huge, huge success. So that's it on that. And then Jay-Z announced anniversary concerts for Reasonable Doubt and The Blueprint at the Yankee Stadium. Apparently, he's going to perform Jay-Z on Friday, July 10th, and on Saturday, July 11th at the Yankee Stadium, which is the Reasonable Doubt and Blueprint. So he's probably going to perform tracks off one night off Reasonable Doubt, one night off Blueprint. Now, this is funny because here's the thing. Would Jay-Z be able to do an anniversary tour, and how much would the numbers be? That's one question that I want to ask. Why is he doing only one? And you could say he's a billionaire, so he doesn't have to. I get that. But I would have just liked to see him do a tour by himself, around, like the same thing 50 did, and see what kind of numbers he would push. That's one. Two, I respect this. I'm not, I wouldn't clown Jay-Z for this because, like I said, he's a billionaire and he's reached levels and statuses that most artists haven't. I clown Rick Ross because Rick Ross is nowhere near that level, and Rick Ross pretends like he's the biggest, and he's not. He hasn't barely sold any records. He's a cop at the end of the day, so he's nothing that's, special, right? Jay-Z, he doesn't have to do tours. He doesn't have to do any concerts, anything like that. Neither does 50, neither does Eminem, neither does Kanye, neither does Drake. None of these guys that are at this level have to do tours or concerts. But I would just like to see what kind of numbers he would have done if he actually did a full tour. So what's interesting about this is on the Blueprint night, is Eminem going to be coming out to perform Renegade with him? That would be crazy if that happens. Other than that, what's interesting? Academics said he's doing this to distract people from the Epstein stuff, which I don't know. I think that's a bit of a reach because Epstein and, all the stuff that Jay-Z's been getting online hasn't really been proven. As much as a lot of people like to troll online and just throw allegations out there, I'm not one of those people. I like to stick to the facts as much as possible. But I can see why academics is saying that. But at the end of the day, I doubt him. And 2 concerts isn't going to distract people forever. And he's doing the other concert at the Rock the Bells or whatever it's called, Roots Festival or something like that. So yeah, man, overall pretty cool, man. And what's funny about this too is this exposed the Jay-Z stands in our media that we do. Because like I said, Charlemagne saw this and commented, "Hovengers assemble." So you can tell he's a Hove. Jay-Z, I'm not going to call Jay-Z Hove. He's not, that's a crazy name to call somebody. But this is a guy who's clearly a fan of Jay-Z. Clear as day, he's a stan of him, fan of him, whatever. So there's his bias right there. Ebro's excited. All these people that I already knew were Jay-Z fans and biased towards Jay-Z are all excited, going crazy. So that just tells you right there, a lot of people in the media are Jay-Z fans secretly. They just won't admit it. And there needs to be more balance. I think there needs to be more people that are fans of Eminem, more people that are fans of Drake, more people that are fans of 50 Cent, more people that are fans of Kanye, more people that are fans of, you know, all these bigger artists, more balanced out. Because if it's a whole leaning side to Jay-Z, whenever arguments and debates happen, they're all going to lean towards Jay-Z. You know, and that's one thing Jay-Z has been good at, controlling the narrative. It's the same thing LeBron James does really well. They plant these little seeds in the media, and then when these media people get asked, who are you a fan of? Oh, nobody. You know, I'm a fan of just all hip hop, blah, blah, blah. They don't come out and say, hey, man, I'm a Jay-Z fan. And I'm not saying Jay-Z's paying these guys, but it's strategic how Jay-Z has done that. Like I said, with me, you're getting clear who I'm a fan of, who I'm not, this and that. I've never hidden it, never will hide it. And nobody can push me towards any way to say anything. That's why I love what I have as a platform. I'm independent. There's been nobody that's ever invested money into what I do. There's nobody that's ever been pushing. Like I told you guys, there was a record label that tried to buy Diverse Mentality back in 2021. I declined it because I don't want nobody to be able to control what I can say and what I can't say. Never. I don't care what money I'm offered. And I got offered ridiculous money that I've never seen in my life. It would have been life-changing, yeah. If I would have got that money, 100% would have been life-changing. Because if I was just smart with it, you know, it was a good amount of money. But yeah, I didn't want to do it because, like I said, I don't want anybody to tell me what I can and can't say on my own platform. This is my platform, and I'm free to do whatever I want, say whatever I want, you know, and that's it. And that's the way I want to keep it. I don't care, no matter what. So yeah, that's that. And yeah, check out the shows if you can get tickets. I think they're sold out already. But Lil Wayne announces the Carter 20th anniversary tour dates. This is pretty good, but the areas that he's performing at is like very random. And he has 2 Chainz in the game as special guests. Like some of these areas are just so random. Which I'm like, why is he performing in like Atlanta? Like these are random dates of random areas. Like Des Moines, Iowa is surprising that Lil Wayne's going to Des Moines, Iowa. Most artists don't go to Des Moines, Iowa. But yeah, the dates are like, see, like with the top comments, who picked these cities? That's interesting. It's like, but yeah, I don't know. That's interesting and cool that he's done more than like, I don't know how many dates this is. This looks like at least 25 locally in the United States. I don't know if Wayne's a big worldwide artist, but you know, some of these artists be better if they could do like worldwide dates just to see what their numbers would be like J. Cole is doing right now. But hey, speaking of Lil Wayne, he was interviewed and he talked about AI, and it was very interesting, man. I was like, AI? Like, what the fuck? Lil Wayne on AI? What does he know about AI? And he said some interesting stuff. So let me see. Let me find the clip for you guys.
How do you handle AI in this business now?
Challenge. The challenge.
Bro, it's wild.
I love it. AI is a better thing. I love that AI is what it is.
Yeah.
Because, man, I love to be able to stand right next to whoever AI is, he, she, they, whatever AI is, stand right next to them, and I'm still better. Ain't that something? That something? Gonna keep telling me what you do again?
Yeah.
Gonna run your list. I do this, I do that. Yeah, I love it. I love the challenge of it. The first time I seen it, somebody my friends was a little worried. They was like, man, bro, they got this AI stuff where you couldn't just ask it to give you a verse like Lil Wayne. And so I did it. I said, hey, let me have a verse like Lil Wayne. And she gave me her best shot.
Yeah.
I did it on a couple of devices. That, you know, not only a phone, a computer, even for a commercial, I was shooting for the Alexa thing. I want to hear, and I have a thing called Proto at home. They got its own little robot thing. Asked her to give me one, and they all, oh, you suck. So that's how we gonna be okay.
I fuck with that. Because like, who was it? Beanie Siegel? I think he had to start using it because he like was losing his voice a little bit.
And that's helpful. That's
where it's helpful.
Yeah.
But like, it ain't gonna ever replace you, shoot.
Not at all. And with that said, I want everyone out there to know we're talking about me and we're talking about a musician. Please know that goes for everything. If you're a janitor and you're fearing that AI will take your job, do your job better. Clean up way better than that. Clean up. He can't get this spot. He couldn't get this spot. You didn't even know this was dirty up here. I'm the only one who know about this spot. You gotta just do your job and do it well, man. You gotta worry about it.
Dude, that's funny as fuck. He also talked about how like if you're a janitor, you know, be the best janitor so even AI can't replace you. Like look at that spot. He's like over there, the way I cleaned this spot, the AI never got this. So it was a funny conversation. And I like the way Lil Wayne's like approaching this and looking at it. He's like, I actually saw if AI could match me and it can't. And yeah, AI is never going to replace like actual art. I don't think that's ever going to be the case. The point of AI to me is to make things more efficient. And jobs that can be replaced by AI, there's going to be some jobs that can be replaced by AI, but I don't think it's going to replace everything. People think like AI is going to be this thing where none of us are ever going to work again. It's just going to be computers all over the place. Like, nah, that the chances of that happening are very, very, very slim, because AI is only as good as the information it gets, and that's it. So that was an interesting take. I'm glad he talked about that, because I just want more. I'm really curious about more artists' opinion on AI and see where they stand with it. Do they like it? Do they, dislike it? He talked about Beanie Siegel using it for his voice as well, and he said that's a good, reason to, have AI with you, because it can restore your voice to more of a classic voice that people are used to. So, yeah, dope ass clip. This is hilarious. So Rick Ross sent a cease and desist to Remy Ma and her network. So Remy Ma has her own like network of stuff that you can post, movies, documentaries, whatever you make, you can submit it. They'll post it on there. I don't know what the pay is or how it's working, but she has her own network, right? And on there is a film called The Biggest Boss. And the funny thing is it's like legitimately talk about Rick Ross, about a guy who used to be a correctional officer, decides to take someone's identity and becomes a rapper out of it. And the biggest boss, who calls himself the biggest boss? The rapper Rick Ross. So let's go over this. Rick Ross respects hustle, but he says Remy Ma has gone too far. The biggest boss is going after Remy and her network for a movie that he says rips off his nickname and music. In case you missed it, Remy Ma is planning to release a film called The Biggest Boss on her platform, the Remy Network. Now, according to a letter sent by Ross's attorneys and obtained by TMZ, Rick is claiming the project features the unauthorized use of his music and trade name and demanding they halt the project from going forward. Not only that, Ross is saying it's confusing fans into thinking he has something to do with the movie, citing comments on social media. A rep for Remy Ma tells TMZ Remy was personally unaware of the concerns raised regarding The Biggest Boss and takes the matter seriously. She has maintained a personal and professional relationship with Rick Ross for more than 20 years and would never intentionally engage in any action that could harm his brand or cause offense. The film is apparently about a police officer who steals a drug dealer's life story and turns into a rap career, eerily similar to Ross's own backstory of being a correctional officer turned rapper. Some fans online have speculated that the project may have been an act of retribution for Remy, as Ross has been very supportive of fighter Clarissa Shields, who is currently dating Remy's ex-husband. But Remy's rep says Remy has also reached out to Ross directly upon being made aware of the issue. The title was immediately removed from the platform. The Remy Network is now working closely with its partners to strengthen review processes and ensure situations like this do not occur moving forward. This could have been all avoided. Just don't use Rick Ross's music in the documentary. That simple. Make a version of Hustlin', the beat, an alternate version that doesn't use any of the actual like drums and stuff that was on Hustlin', and you can get away with it. This is like the Give It Your Die Trying documentary I made. When I released it on public platform, YouTube, I didn't use any of the music. Now, I did use some of his imaging, but that's fair use because it's the documentary. It's different than a film, right? A documentary has different, criteria. But a film, you got to be like, basically, how they would have got away with this if they would have made the movie into a parody, which kind of it is because it's a parody on someone's life that's actually a parody. Because Rick Ross's career is a whole parody. It's emulating a real drug dealer and just being a rapper out of it. It's literally CB4. That's what it is in real life. So they could have just played that type of style for the film, and it would have been easily been dismissible in court. Like there's nothing Rick Ross can do about that. Parodies you can't sue because they're clearly making fun of a situation. It's not anything that you're stealing content. So with that being said, it was funny overall. I think 50 reacted laughing to it. And I saw this trailer for this movie a long time ago. I'm working on my own Rick Ross documentary, not a movie, but a documentary about him stealing the real Rick Ross identity. And that's going to be coming out, hopefully this year. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about it. Interesting thing. And, Remy Ma should have just not featured the music. That's it. And it's not Remy Ma making it. Like, it's clear as day. This is a network where you submit projects. I'm surprised that people reviewing it didn't say, hey, we can't use this because you're using his music, stuff like that. Like, they got to have a better review process. But overall, funny situation, man. So we'll see what happens. I guess it's situated. That's what it looks like. So we'll see what happens if the movie actually comes out ever. Let's get into the Billboard Hot 100. And number one is still Choosing Texas. Ela Langley. I actually listened to the song. It's pretty dope. Man I Need, Olivia Dean, number 2. I Just Might, Bruno Mars, number 3. American Girls, Harry Styles, debuted at number 4. Ordinary, Alex Warren, number 5. Stateside, Pink Panthers, number 6. Golden Hunter, number 7. The Fate of Ophelia, Taylor Swift, number 8. Aperture, Harry Styles, number 9. And Ophelia Light, I'm probably mispronouncing these Taylor Swift songs, at number 10. Let's go down the list and see where's these hip-hop records. Don Toliver, E85. It's not really hip-hop, but number 22 on there. Going down the list. Lil Uzi Vert, What You Saying, number 34. T.I. Let 'Em Know, number 47. That went down the charts. No more mentioning 50, and all of a sudden your peak was 38. You're climbing down, T.I. You got to mention 50. Go diss him again. Just joking. Chris Brown, It Depends, number 48. What a Bad Bitch Straight Flexing. Let me see. Pop That, Dang the Baby, number 62. This is peaked at 59, so it's getting pushed down a little bit, but it's actually slowly climbing up, which is interesting. ESD Kid, 4 Raws, number 85. FDO, Pooh Shiesty, number 87. Pooh Shiesty didn't really capitalize on that record at all, man. Like, push out more music and get that shit going. You don't just drop one track and then disappear off the face of the earth. Wale, shout out to him, and Leon Thomas, Watching Us, debuted at number 92. Pretty cool, man. Big ups to Wale. Miss Trendsetter, Little Baby, re-entered at number 94. And Juvenile, BBB, is at number 100. So that's interesting on that. But yeah, that's it for today's episode of the Diverse Mentality Podcast. As always, appreciate you guys. Stream us, Spotify, Deezer, Pocket Cast, YouTube, all that. Have an amazing night and day whenever you listen to us, and peace.